Soumik, Ghosh, and we are going to be talking about a topic that is kind of an organic flow after the previous topic that was just discussed out here, and that's leveraging data. Now, cloud has become an essential component of almost all businesses today, established or startups or fledgling companies as well. Now, while it brings about a lot of flexibility, a lot of business objectives are achieved, a lot of times CIOs and CTOs are perplexed with the cloud costs. In the recent past, we have seen while cloud storage costs have been coming down, cloud compute costs have been growing, sometimes 2x, sometimes by 3x. So there are, in this topic, in this fireside chat, we're going to be talking about the applications, what differences cloud can actually make to your business outcomes. And also, how do you get a cap on these particular complexities with respect to cloud? And also, how do you handle the data security and the governance aspect of cloud computing, all right? So to start with, I'll start with you, Dr. Chandrasekhar. Now, Dr. Nair, you've been in the business of diagnostics and healthcare. You've got a lot of patient data to deal with. Now, at what point did you rethink your cloud strategy? And what were the kind of applications or business outcomes you were trying to achieve with cloud operations?
So let's start with a brief background. We are a medical devices company. We focus on point-of-care diagnostics. This is a product that was conceived, prototyped, validated, and manufactured now in India and is global. We started this journey 25 years ago. At that time, we were wondering, and we wanted to leverage mobile telephony, and we wanted to connect every single device to a centralized infrastructure that could then really leverage the power of this distributed data. And that's the power of point-of-care diagnostics, isn't it? Therefore, the early stages were all about access, and it's about security. But when you create these kind of devices where you can do a lot of computing on the edge, and you have public health as your very major customer, then it evolves into a strategy, into a hybrid strategy that has all kinds of permutations and combinations, especially if you're global. I think the cloud has provided us, and the way the entire platform has evolved has provided us with an opportunity to leverage all of this data. Whether we are using it or not is a different matter. But at least now we have the framework to handle some of these.
Understood. All right. Moving to you, Mr. Prashant Singh. Now, if you look at it from Leadsquared point of view, we have a lot of customers out there, such as Molbio out here. They're looking for ways to optimize cost, performance, and security. How have you approached the problem at your organization, and how have you been able to strike a balance between all of these three components?
Yes, so just to give you a background, Leadsquared, I mean, we are a sales, service, and marketing automation company having 2,000 plus customers globally. We are a company born in cloud. We have been on AWS from day one, and today also we are fully on AWS. In terms of the priorities, see, when you are developing a product, the first priority is to have an MVP and have a product market fit, right? You don't think too much about cost. You think about performance, you think about security, but you don't think too much about cost. Once you achieve certain scale, then you start thinking about optimizing. Having said that, the design principles behind performance, cost, and security, I think they should be thought on day one. You should not build something which cannot be improved later, right? Because if you don't think like that, you end up creating a lot of technical debt, which you have to retire, when you are growing, right? And that's a very expensive exercise.
Correct.
But when you achieve maturity, I think there comes a time where you know that you can optimize the cost, right? And in our journey, I think after we have been optimizing the cost since last couple of years, and you have been reasonably successful in that. But security and performance, I mean, that's ongoing. So in your order of priority, security will always be number one, performance will always be number two, and then will come your features and cost and everything else.
Right. Now, you talked about technical debt, and there's another one cloud complexity that a lot of customers out there sometimes face, and that is with respect to cloud repatriation. So you put up something on a public cloud, and then you suddenly realize that this is not economically feasible, it's not working out for you, and then you say, no, I'm going to go back to on-prem, all right? So you sometimes land up losing a little bit of money out there, you stand to lose a lot of time out there. What would you, advise our entrepreneurs out here? What 3 questions must business leaders ask themselves before they choose between a hybrid cloud or a private cloud or a public cloud solution? How did you approach the problem, Dr. Nair?
So for us, the most important thing is security of the data and compliances around it, especially if you are in the medical device and let us say, medical informatics domain. The second thing is about scalability, performance, because you have geographically distributed devices. Compliance plays a very major role. And then public health is not very rich, correct? So costs become very, very important. So,
right? Your take on this, Prashant.
Yeah, I think unless your target customers mandate that you need to have your data and infrastructure in on-prem setup or a private cloud, I would recommend that you be on public cloud and try to satisfy your customer with all the best security practices, right? I think you can do enough. I mean, you can put enough guardrails on infrastructure in application so that you can satisfy a lot of customers. But if your customer is, for example, a government body, right, a highly regulated body, it may be difficult to convince them.
True.
We operate, we have customers in healthcare, we have customers in US, so HIPAA, we are HIPAA compliant, and we have customers in India where we follow the RBI or IRDA regulation. And we don't have any on-prem deployment so far.
Okay.
We are fully in cloud. Sometimes we set up private instance within AWS for the customer, right, if it's absolutely required, but otherwise it's fully public cloud, and we have all the security credentials, certifications to satisfy the customers that we are, taking care of their data and privacy.
Right. Dr. Nair, you want to add something?
Yeah, I think there is something here about our DPDP Act that's coming up, and
right.
that will significantly help us. At this point in time, people want to err on the side of caution, correct? And
Correct.
then it becomes a very expensive solution.
Right. And yeah, I mean, there are implications of DPDP, of course, and one of the main reasons why companies out there are taking it very seriously is because of the humongous amount of penalties involved, the maximum of which can go up to 250 crore for an instance of a data breach, and if you are found negligent of insufficient security practices. So good point out there. Now, Dr. Nair, the next question that I had for you is with respect to the kind of use case or the kind of applications that you're working at Molbio. Now, your company is aiming to take critical diagnosis right to people's doorsteps, so they can access it with their handheld devices. You're also expanding operations to 80 countries at this point in time. Could you tell us a little bit about the challenges that comes with the scale factor of it, and also how did cloud help you leverage, and reach out to all of these customers across 80 countries?
The first point is with point-of-care devices, you have a challenge, correct? If you have centralized devices, you can have people go there and service them, support them. How do you ensure very high availability of these point-of-care devices?
Right.
So that is one beautiful use case.
Did you have a challenge earlier on which you were able to solve?
Of course. So it's not easy to kind of consolidate and address device health if you're looking at a global deployment. Now with cloud-based solutions, it is much easier. And building AI on that, it is much easier to predict device failure if you have the right parameters being monitored. So this is one use case. The other use case, and we have seen some governments actually leverage that, is they want to actually see the power of this clinical data. That I think is super powerful, because now we are able to actually go and intervene in a much more meaningful manner.
Okay.
compare it to what is happening currently, correct? Tuberculosis detection in this country and globally has been a huge challenge.
Right.
And data used to take months, and even after the year is over, it used to take months to consolidate data.
Right.
Today, that power of data is online on your fingertips. But can you actually leverage that data to figure out who is it that is most affected? And can we develop intervention strategies around that? That is the power of having both distributed devices and the cloud together. I see this as a very major focus area for a country like India. If we can strengthen our primary healthcare with distributed devices and we can leverage the power of each one of those devices, I think we can leapfrog our infrastructural challenges in healthcare.
Absolutely, great point there. And I commend you for your vision in trying to achieve the tuberculosis challenge in India, and the success you've achieved over the span of time. Now, Prashant, if you look at Molbio's use case, we see that there's a great need for accessibility across multiple devices and locations. So, with this need in mind, could you tell us a little bit about what cloud CRM can unlock for companies and how it can, help them achieve the outcomes that Molbio out here is looking for instance?
Yeah. So ultimately, so like company like Molbio and many other customers that we have, they are trying to solve either an efficiency problem or an experience problem, or trying to improve some aspect of a business or individual, right? If you just look in abstraction, to solve any of these problems, you need to be able to connect all the interactions with the potential and existing customer. You need all the data and should be able to derive meaningful insight from the data, right? How do you do that? So CRM plays a central role in that. So CRM plays a central role in being system of records, as well as system of execution, as well as system of workflow, right? That's the source of truth for the data, and also source of truth for the execution on the data and all the insights that you can derive from it. So I think they already have a stable CRM in place, and any company which is dealing with customers day in, day out would need some flavor of CRM. In some cases you may need a CRM like Leadsquared, which is specialized for fast-moving, consumer-facing sales processes. In some other case, you need something else, but you would need something where you can connect all the channels, you get all the inputs, should be able to create workflows, whether they are automated or powered by AI, right? Should be able to create user interfaces where your people who are dealing with the customer can actually look at the data and have meaningful conversation. It can be done by human, or it can be done by an AI agent, right? And should be able to derive insights from the data so that the experience of your people as well as your customer, become totally frictionless and, sets you in the direction of achieving the right result, which may be increasing revenue or bringing down the cost or improving the health of an individual, right?
All right. Now, Prashant, I'll continue with you. And this is with respect to one of the topics that we had spoken initially in the intro, and that's with respect to cloud costs. Now, a recent Gartner study estimates that 69% of the organizations that they had surveyed experienced cloud expenditures that were that went over the budget that was allocated. So what would you advise, a lot of these companies out here, if they're funded well and good, but then if they are bootstrapped, this amount could really, eat into their IT budgets. What would you advise these companies? How do you manage that kind of overruns?
Yes, so I think, first of all, you should look at the cost deeply. It is not like any other line item in your P&L. There are a lot of variables in cloud cost which you not understand if you are looking at the superficial level, right? So for example, a lot of cost is actually in data ingress and egress, right? Data movement, and you might be just having a public instance moving data publicly, and that is not required. You can make it private and save that cost, right? So I think one is that a goal, an intent, and a rigor of doing the cost review on a weekly and monthly basis, looking at all the cost and figuring out what can be optimized. There's a lot of cost which goes because people are lazy. It's just there, right? I mean, if you just leave your cloud infrastructure to developers, I mean, they have the best possible intent, but they are not going to think about the cost. They are going to use the best possible instance of all the infrastructure to achieve their goal. So you need to, so at certain, at certain scale, you need to start budgeting the cost. And when I say budget, for example, if you have 100 rupee revenue, your cost is say 20. Next year we are targeting 150, right? You should be targeting gross margin improvement. Gross margin is your revenue minus your, I mean, in our business, your cloud cost. I mean, unless you have a target of improvement, you will end up spending more, right? And I mean, with my experience, I can say that there is always, a possibility of improving it. There's always a possibility. Whether you do some hygiene work or you do infra optimization or you do application optimization, there's always a possibility. So there has to be intent, there has to be rigor, and there has to be a goal which is measured on monthly and quarterly basis to get the desired result. And you have to go into details. I mean, cloud cost is not just the machine cost.
We finally come to the most critical aspect of cloud and the most spoken about aspect as well. And we've seen giants, Fortune 500 companies being brought to their knees because some unsecured bucket out there is lying exposed, which gets compromised, data is exfiltrated, and terabytes of customer PII data is exposed. That's a nice intro to the question. So, with respect to this part of it, how do you approach cloud security, especially in the organization, I mean, in the area that you're working with? You've got DPDP to look at. You've also got to look at HIPAA. If you're operating in European markets, you also have the GDPR. So how important is cloud security and how do you go about achieving it?
I think that is it's a very difficult question. But I think like every other infrastructure, continuous vigilance, especially from the cloud perspective, and building strategies around continuous vigilance is very important. Implementation of zero trust architecture and encrypt everything, I think broadly would cover it.
Broadly covers it, all right. I want to hear your take on it as well, Prashant. If you could leave our audience with 3 takeaways that could really help them with respect to securing cloud infra, how do you approach it?
Sure. I mean, one very common thing I have seen and in a lot of incidents that come across, I mean, you see something is misconfigured to be publicly available, right? And that's the most common, I mean, 2 things that, I mean, you keep repeating to your people, but it ends up happening. Right? Something is publicly available, which should not have been. Second is sharing of secret keys or passwords, right? Those are the 2 most common issues which are the reason of data outage. So first of all, I think doing the review of all the, even if you have best of the security in place, if something can be private and still be functional, it should be private. For example, your database, right? It can be a public instance, right? And you can have a secure connection to it. But then you are carrying the risk of, at some point of time, somebody getting, somebody doing some goof up and your data being accessible, right? So keeping things public makes things faster to execute, to deploy, but taking the effort to make them private keeps you secure and insured for future, right? So one is that, do a rigorous review of and figure out, what should be public, and that should be minimal, like he said, zero trust, right? Second is engaging third parties. So apart from the regular VAPT and regular InfoSec exercises, have an agency to look at, scan the dark web and all the public and maybe some private, data sources available to find out if there has been already a data leak or compromise, because many times you get to know about the compromise 1 month, 2 months down the line, right? A lot of people save password in browser and their browser compromised and the data is already available on dark web, right? If you have a good agency, they'll be able to tell that for you or your customer, some data is already on public and this is sensitive data and you should better take action on it, right? So we have an agency which keeps monitoring and keeps informing us. Mm-hmm. And every 2 weeks we get to know something, and it's mostly our customers just, in a very benign manner, they would have put some access key and secret key on some web page, and that is already in public domain, right? So we disable that, inform the customers, we do all that exercise. So have that rigor, right? Third is, in in case of web and mobile applications, which is the most common use of way of consuming, software applications, always have a web application firewall in place, right? I mean, that is absolutely important after a certain scale. Otherwise, we'll keep dealing with DDoS and all kinds of attack, and you'll not be able to, respond in time. Having said that, incidents will happen.
Correct.
Right? I mean, no company can say that I did not have any incident or I will not have an incident. They will happen. Take insurance, take liability insurance, take cyber security insurance, and have a response mechanism in place, right? I mean, the test is when the incident happens, right? And I think you need to do those, chaos week and all, and how do people react? Because many times you'll find that people don't react in the way you'd want them to react.
Correct.
Be prepared.
All right. Thank you so much for that. All right. So that's pretty much all we have time for in this discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, round of applause for Dr. Chandrasekhar Nair and Mr. Prashant Singh, please. Thanks.